Hey, Steve Stanek here from the Dusty Keratometer. Here's what we got coming up for you. Optometry and Magic, followed by a quick tip, so stay tuned. Okay, so here's what happened. Mom brings the kid in. He's 2 or 3 years old. He's screaming. He does not want to get his eyes checked. His mom's apologizing profusely. She puts him down in my chair. He looks tiny in the chair. He's still crying. I reassured both him and his mom everything's going to be fine. I raised him up a little bit, and this is what I did. Now in 2 seconds, I did 3 things. The kid stopped crying. I completed the first test, and I had his undivided attention for the next 20 minutes, during which time I could complete the eye exam. So you don't have to do magic tricks on everything, but they don't know what's coming, so you just sprinkle in a few here and there, and they'll stay right with you. So I don't know about you, but when I'm doing patients, I clean the back of the phoropter, the cheek rest and the forehead rest with an alcohol pad, and then I take a Kleenex and I dry it so there's no alcohol on there. And I'm going to use a silk here, but this is what I did. I took the Kleenex and I said, now watch carefully, see what happens. And the next thing I did, I asked him if he recognized this. And he said, oh yeah, it's a coloring book. And I said to him, what's strange about this coloring book? There's no pictures in it. So I gave him my magic wand and I said, okay, you're going to be the magician. I handed him the magic wand. I said, wave the magic wand over the coloring book. So he did that. And then I said, oh, now we got pictures. So I had him do the magic wand again. Now the pictures are all colored in. Then I had him do it a third time, and the pictures went away again. So then I said, well, that wasn't so bad. Can you look at this book of mine? We're going to check your color vision. And so he took the book and he complied with color vision testing. I think next I pulled out my Randot. The Randot's kind of magical on its own. I had him put on the magic glasses. He saw the animals 3D. He correctly identified them. So anyway, it turned out to be a good experience. And his mom was just thrilled. I didn't have to have him come back for another visit. Got everything done I had to have done. And she came and saw me a few years later, and she said, you're the guy that did the magic for my son. He's still talking about that. Let me show you another one. Now, little kids don't understand card tricks, but this one they might. It's pretty easy. I tell them, look, I want you to take this deck of cards behind your back, and what I want you to do is pull any card out and put it on the top, and then I'll hand you a marker, and I want you to put an X from corner to corner on that deck of cards. So they take it back and they do the thing. I make a big deal. I get the marker out. I take the cover off, and I hand it to them at the right time. I wait until they've got their card selected. I say, okay, now bury that card somewhere in the deck. So I take the deck and I give it to their mom. I flip it over. I said, okay, now, same thing. Take that behind your back, pull out a card, exit, corner to corner. And I'll show you the reveal on a different camera angle. Pretty impressive. You get the deck of cards back from the mom, and you spread the cards out, and you want to look for the card that the mom drew the X on. There it is. We'll set it aside for now. And we'll take the card deck and we'll turn it over and we'll find the card that the son drew on. Where is it? It's not here. Well, there's only one explanation for that. It must be the same card. Now, let me talk about what I don't do. I don't do anything dangerous with kids. There's a lot of magic using fire. I don't want the kid burning his house down, playing with matches and stuff. There's some impressive tricks with where you have a deck of cards and you throw the deck up in the air and you apparently impale the card that was selected with your sword. I don't do that. I don't want a kid messing around with a kitchen knife or something like that, injuring themselves. First rule of optometry and medicine, do no harm. Sometimes I'll even ask the parent if it's okay if I do a magic trick for their kid. I've never been turned down, but you have to respect their wishes. When Harry Potter was big, it was great. You could talk about Hogwarts. This is what they teach at Hogwarts, that sort of thing. And it's kind of fun. It adds a new dimension to the practice of optometry. Usually, this lecture is normally an hour long. I've boiled it down just a few minutes, show you a few tricks, simple. I'm a member of the Society of American Magicians, SAM, which is a great organization for magic. All right, now listen. There's kind of a code among magicians. The deal is you don't divulge how tricks are done willy-nilly because, let's face it, you're giving away the secrets. And people actually are kind of let down when they hear how these tricks are done. So if you don't want to know, please turn off this video now. But if you really want to know, I'm going to tell you the way I made my thumbs light up. It's called D-lights. It's basically a plastic thumb tip with a LED and a battery and a wire inside. And when you press down on the wire, it lights up. The nice thing about having two is you can apparently transfer the light from one side to the other. So when you map out your H pattern, you just let this one go, light this one up at the right time, and then you can continue over. If your technician has one, you can pretend to throw them the light. They can pretend to catch the light. You can pretend to bounce it off of surfaces, like off the floor if you time it just right. All kinds of things you can do with these. Now the Silk Vanish uses a regular thumb tip. There's nothing in there. You hold that in your one hand and you take the Kleenex or whatever it is you're making disappear, you slide it all in there nice and tight, and then at the right time you put your thumb in there and you slowly pull it away, and then use a little misdirection. The human eye tends to follow motion, so by keeping this hand quiet, not moving it, and wiggling your fingers and you looking at your hand, the audience tends to look at your hand. So that's a little misdirection, they call it. And then you can just slide this into your pocket or put it down. It's kind of handy. And if you should happen to drop this, just say, I'm all thumbs today, and pick it up. And a lot of times they won't even perceive that you just screwed up. So it's kind of interesting. The coloring book, you probably figured out what I was doing. It's the way the pages are cut. They're cut on a slant. So down here, when you page through it, you don't get any pictures. When you go at the top, you get the lines, and when you go at the middle, you get the colored in. So it's all in the book. I like these. These are called packet tricks. The trick is basically contained in the item. It doesn't take a lot of sleight of hand to do something like this. Like I mentioned, this lecture, it was an hour lecture that I gave with Dr. Rick Peterson, who is a real magician. He can take a normal object like a coin and do all kinds of fascinating things with it. This card trick was called Two Hearts That Beat as One, and you could add some patter about the family bonding, and they must have a strong bond, and that's why they selected the same card. Well, the trick is, what you do is you take a marker that's already dried out, or let it dry out. After you've marked it, make sure it's the right color so that it matches. So this marker is not going to be marking anything. So when they take the deck behind their back, they don't realize that. They think they're actually marking a card. I use this aviator deck, which is a little on the big side. I think if I was going to do this today, I would use a smaller deck. Decks come in different sizes. This is a bridge size deck, and you can see it's just a little bit smaller. Reason being, bridge players, I guess, hold more cards, and therefore they make the deck a little smaller. This would be a little easier for a kid to hold. So if I was going to do this today, I would do a bridge size deck. Now everybody has their own way of dealing with kids that are crying and whatnot. I had an ophthalmologist tell me that his method was he would actually put money in a particular drawer, and a colleague of mine did the same thing, an optometrist, and they would say, okay, we're going to have you back in a week. Your mom's going to bring you back, and if you let me do these tests on you, if you can find this money, you can have it. And the ophthalmologist told me, he said it was great, it worked perfect. He said every time all week the kid's thinking about the money, where it is in your office, and he comes in, he does the eye exam takes place, and then the ophthalmologist would say, okay, can you remember where the money was? And he says they'll go right to that drawer and they'll pull out that money. I kind of think my way is better because on a couple levels. Number one, that requires 2 visits, and if I can get it all done in 1 visit, so much the better. Number two, I don't know, the principle of me having to pay the patient, that's just wrong. I want the patient to pay me. I suppose if I had to do it, if there's no other way, I'd go for it if it's going to work, but I've never done that personally. I will say this, Robert Houdin is felt by many to be the father of modern conjuring. Before his time, magicians used to appear in silk robes, kind of like clowns, buffoons, things like that. And Robert Houdin, he started the trend of the magician appearing in a tuxedo, kind of a class act. There were society demonstrations of magic, that sort of thing. So he took magic to a whole new level, in my opinion, much the way Charles Prentice took optometry from a profession that sold glasses in jewelry stores and whatnot to a whole different level with peer review and journals and licensing and that sort of thing. So there's a little parallel there between magic and optometry. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Any questions, leave a comment down in the bottom. You could probably get all these tricks for about 40 bucks. Some of them you can make yourself. You probably have a deck of cards laying around. And I'll list the sources. All the stuff is, I think, available on Amazon, to be honest with you, or a magic shop. And you'll probably come up with other ways to do things. Here are those D-lights. I think they go for about 20 bucks or so. Now, sometimes you'll do a magic trick for somebody and they'll say to you, do that again. Part of the magician's code is not to do that. Instead, say, let me show you something else. Do another trick. Or if it's in the end of the eye exam, say, tell you what, come back in a year, I'll do more tricks for you. Once you've done a trick, the element of surprise is gone. And then the people are kind of looking at what you're doing, trying to figure it out. So that's the best policy. If you're in optometry school or been practicing a while, it doesn't matter. We're all optometrists. We're all in this together. Let's try to help each other out. Stay tuned for the quick tip. See you next time. Okay, so here's your quick tip. Eyeglass 2. We got to give the patient a prescription for sure. I like to give them 2. Sometimes the optician keeps a prescription. I think that's kind of a foul. I think I should just make a copy of it, but I give them 2. I give them one that's laminated, and it's also got my contact information on it. And this gives you a couple of things. Number one, I tell the patient, if you're on vacation, you lose your glasses, you break your glasses, keep this in your wallet. You'll always have it with you. Here in the Panhandle of Florida, I know a guy that works at Walmart, and his main chief complaint is lost glasses in the surf. What happens is people come down from New Jersey, Connecticut, Maryland, Virginia. They drive down, they go out in the water, big wave comes, knocks their glasses off. They lose their glasses. They got to get new glasses to drive back to wherever they came from, so they come and see my friend. If you do this for your patients, they won't have to do that. Make sure you put a date on it, and your license number and all that. The other thing it does for you is, let's say your patient is out at the soccer game, and another parent tells them, you know, we're thinking about getting contacts for Johnny. And you want your patient to say, oh, you got to go see my guy or my girl. I got a great optometrist. Took good care of Jimmy. Real nice guy, great with kids. So you get that out of it. And the other thing is there's less chance they're going to have to call your office for the prescription if they have it on themselves. Might save you some time. When you do it, make sure that you make it small enough that it'll fit in their wallet. If it won't fit, they're not going to carry it with them. And one of the things I learned is when you trim the lamination off, if you get too close, the lamination will separate. So you actually have to kind of like cut your card down a little bit. Buy a bunch of these, run them through the laminator. Something that's laminated, people think it's real important, and it is important, their prescription. Well, that's your quick tip. Hope it helps. See you later.